Welcome to 7-2 Notes, where we're going to continue to work with fractions and percents, and we're going to also talk about how decimals come into the picture. We can use mental math to skip the fraction step when we're converting between decimals and percent. To write a percent as a decimal, you divide by 100 and remove the percent sign or symbol. To write a decimal as a percent, you're going to multiply it by 100 and then add or put back, maybe we should say put rather than add, put back the percent sign. Let me show you what we're talking about here. For example, 1, it says to write each percent as a decimal. So let's go back. To write a percent as a decimal, we need to divide by 100. So 23 divided by 100, we did this a lot last semester, means it's going to be 0.23. And the proper way to do that is to say 0.23. So we make sure we see that as a decimal. Alright, so 4%, we do 4 divided by 100. And what happens when you divide by 100? The decimal is understood to be here. We move our decimal 2 places to the left. When you're dividing, you move to the left. So that means it's going to be 0.04 as a decimal. Okay? Take just a second and see if you could write each of these percents as a decimal. I'm going to wait just a second and give you a chance. So I'm going to skip the step of actually writing 7 over 100 and just think in my mind I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So it's going to become 0.12. Do that so you don't make a careless mistake. 007. The decimal is understood to be right here. So in your head, you're going to divide by 100, which means move our decimal 2 places to the left. We went to the left there. You need the little arrow to show which direction you're going. So it'll be 2.91. All right, hopefully this is review, but just in case, it's always good to review. Makes it become more permanent in our long-term memory. All right, example 3 says to write each decimal as a percent. So go back to the top of the page where it says to write a decimal as a percent. You're going to multiply by 100, and then you're just going to stick the percent sign on the end. So 0.6 times 100. When you multiply times 100, what happens? You move your decimal 2 places to the right. So that's going to become 60%. So again, mentally multiplying by 100, we're moving our decimal 2 places to the right, makes that 571%. Moving our decimal 2 places to the right, so 0.008 is really 0.8%. So to write each decimal as a percent, you're going to multiply times 100. To take a percent and turn it into a decimal, you're dividing by 100. We may need to come up with a way to remember when do we multiply and when do we divide. You may already have one of those memory devices you might want to share with me in class. Alright, it's just a never-ending cycle. It's a big triangle. Fractions, decimals, and percents are all different names for the same number. Here's one that we're all very familiar with. 1/2. 1/2 is a fraction. As a decimal, it's 0.5, and as a percent, it's 50%. So that lets you see there how it all converts, how you go from a fraction to a decimal, from a decimal to a percent, with a number that you're very familiar with. All right, example 4, express each fraction as a percent. Now, I'm going to use my calculator because at this point in the year we're using our calculators, and I'm going to say 3 divided by 8, and my calculator gives me 0.375, but it says express each fraction as a percent, and I'm not going to make the mistake I made on the last video, I'm going to finish reading my instructions. Round to the nearest tenth when necessary, or if necessary. So to take a decimal and turn it into a percent, I am multiplying times 100, which means I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the right, and it's going to be 37.5%. 8 divided by 9. My calculator says, oh, I should know that one. Oh, I'm embarrassed that I had to punch that in my calculator. I'm actually doing this early in the morning. And I'm going to write it. It's 0.8 repeating. Y'all knew that before I did. But I'm going to actually write it a couple of times because to multiply times 100, it's going to help me to go ahead and have those 8s written down. So it's 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. So to turn that into percent, we're going to multiply times 100, which means we're going to move our decimal 2 places to the right. So it's 88.8, and it's still repeating percent. All right, 32 divided by 15. I get 2.13, and the 3 is repeating, but I'm going to write it down just to have it to work with when I multiply times 100. Moves my decimal 2 places to the right. So it's 213.3 repeating percent. And then 1 divided by 125 is 0.008. Multiply times 100 makes it 0.8%. Forgot my equal signs. Okay, so our last example on this page before we finish gives us a word problem, because life's not going to just give us fractions very often. Most of the time we're going to encounter life in words and situations like this, where a baker said that 25% of his customers buy only bread, 2/5 of his customers buy only cookies, and then 0.35 buy only pies. Which of these groups is the largest? Okay, well, 25, we could turn them all into percents and make it easy to think about this. So bread, he said 25%. Let's turn them all into the same, either all into fractions, all into decimals, or all into percent. I think turning them into percent will be the easiest. Cookies were 2/5, which 2 divided by 5 is going to give us 0.4, 0.4. So there's an understood 0 there, but when you turn it into percent, you multiply times 100, so we're going to have to add that 0, which is 40%. And then the last category was, oh, excuse me, there is something out the window. I'm so sorry for that distraction. There's something out the window, and I'm not going to redo my video at this point. So we're on the very last part of the very last problem. Pies, he said that 0.35 buy pies. What does that mean? That means that 35% buy pies. When you multiply that times 100, you'll move your decimal 2 places to the right. So looking at these percentages, cookies are the most popular item at that bakery. And I also have a note here for you to, in your book, you may not have your book with you if you're at home reading this or listening to this video, but tomorrow let's be sure we look at page 339 and talk about common equivalents. On page 339, I'm using a beautiful crimson color pen today because I just, you know me, I love my Crimson Tide. Roll Tide. Y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.